A new federal lawsuit aims to overturn the state's outdoor dining ban. Legal analyst Wendy Patrick joining us now to break this all down. Wendy, good morning.
Good morning, Raul.
Okay, first up, where was the lawsuit filed?
Well, I think the one you're talking about was filed in LA. And the reason I say I think is I almost can't keep track of all the litigation that is being spread all across the country. Intentional choice of words there, because the issue is COVID is not spreading at their establishment, so they should be able to be open. So I call this data-driven dining. Many restaurants, they say, look, there has to be some proof that anybody got COVID at our establishment. I mean, think about it. These servers are masked, gloved, sanitized, socially distanced. You go inside a dining room and it's like a plexiglass, a sea of plexiglass. They are so careful that their argument is basically, hey, nobody got it here. What is probably happening, Raul, is more a matter of personal accountability than social responsibility. In other words, people are gathering together maskless. They're doing it in their own homes. They're doing it maybe even in open spaces, but they're not getting it from anything that restaurants are or aren't doing. And so that is the basis of these lawsuits being filed.
Okay, so the legal team, they had some success challenging this in Los Angeles because they banned outdoor dining as well. How would those arguments hold up in federal court?
Well, the arguments would basically be the same. Is you've got to have some sort of a nexus, basically saying that you can prove that this is why you closed it down. But you also, Raul, have to make sure when you talk about federal court, if it's a constitutional question, we want to make sure that you're treating people the same. So you can't basically say, we're going to close down breweries, but not wineries. We're going to close down churches, but not other types of establishments. You have to make sure you're being fair across the board and not unduly infringing on constitutional rights. So it's a little bit different. Now, I'll tell you what, it's a tough time to be a public official, because you can imagine that they sometimes do the best they can following the advice of health officials, but in doing so, they still have to balance the equities and make sure that they're treating different types of establishments the same and not infringing on freedom of association, freedom of religion. So when you're talking about ending up in federal court, there's a lot of equities to balance, and I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of any of these judges making these tough calls without any pandemic precedent to rely upon. It's been 100 years, Raul. We don't have good case law recently that deals with these types of issues.
I was just going to say that the legal difficulties in something that is, as you mentioned, unprecedented. So this is like every week, every day, we seem to be in new territory, uncharted territory, if you will. Some restaurant owners I've talked to, they said, well, these rules seem to be just arbitrary. You pick and choose who's open, who's not. But then you ask the officials and they're saying, well, this is what we have to do. It's like this is why the country's split up. We don't know who to believe, what to do.
Well, that's right. And everything you said, I could not agree with more. But public officials and courts alike are looking to try to find what type of precedent would really give us some kind of guidance as to what to do here. So you figure if we only have a pandemic every 100 years, whatever we did back in the day is not going to work today. But let me give you one little ray of good hope, since we're nearing the end of the year and the Christmas season. We know so much more now than we did in March. We're able to implement COVID-savvy protocols that we didn't even know about 9 months ago. So with that in mind, again, that's the restaurant's argument, is they are able to reopen any type of businesses. They now know not only how it's spread, but how to avoid the spread. And of all times, with a vaccine on the horizon, their argument is, shouldn't we at least have a last gasp, an attempt to be able to stay in business and not shutter our doors permanently, given that we know so much more about how to control the spread?
We'll see what happens. I mean, we're going to keep our fingers crossed to some degree here. Wendy Patrick, we appreciate your expertise. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Thanks as always.
Thanks, Raul. Merry Christmas to you as well.